Okay, welcome back to Speculate to Accumulate. We are now on episode 15. As you can see, I'm on my own again due to commitments. Aidan couldn't join me today. I was working late, he had stuff on a bit later on when I got home, so we couldn't get together. It is the 29th today, so the following tips are going to be for the 30th of November 2019. So, before we get started, as always, this podcast is brought to you by Faded Barbershop over in Leyland in Lancashire. So, if you are in Lancashire or the Northwest region and you fancy a decent haircut, then go and see Kane and the boys and they will sort you out. So, last week, I'll hold my hands up. Apologies, as it was one of my picks what let down the accumulator. Swansea failed to win. They actually lost at home to Millwall, who hadn't recorded an away win all season. Typical that it let down the accumulator. But we go on again. So the first bet is going to be the fourfold. The first two picks are going to be Aidan's. We sent his notes across. The second two picks are going to be they're going to be my own. I can't even speak. So Aidan's first pick is going to be Burnley to beat Crystal Palace. He has said Burnley have won 4 out of 6 at home this season, keeping a clean sheet in each win. Only Chelsea and Liverpool have scored at Turf Moor this season as visitors, which is a nice little stat. Palace have lost 4 of the 5 last league games, with the only point in them being an away draw at a miserable Arsenal. Obviously, Aidan's an Arsenal fan. So Aidan's first pick is Burnley to beat Palace. His second pick is going to be Hull to beat Barnsley away. So Hull have won 2 impressive away games recently at Fulham and Nottingham Forest, and they also beat Peony at home 4-0 midweek, which was quite a big shock. Barnsley haven't won since the first game of the season, losing 11 games and drawing 6 of their 18 league games this season. So Aidan's second pick is going to be Hull to beat Barnsley. My first pick, I'm going to go for Shrewsbury to beat Mansfield. So it's League 1 versus League 2 in the FA Cup, with Shrewsbury being on a 6-game unbeaten run at home until losing 4-3 to Bristol City in the previous outing, which was quite a tight game over in League 1, should I say. Mansfield, however, sit 15th in League 2, and they've lost the previous league fixture against Swindon. Mansfield have also scored as many as they've conceded this season in League 2, which was 26. So they've scored 26, conceded 26. But with the league position and being a tier below Shrewsbury, I can't see them producing anything. Can't see him producing anything in the FA Cup away at Shrewsbury. So my first pick is going to be Shrewsbury to beat Mansfield, and my second pick is going to be Nottingham Forest at home to Cardiff. So it's 4th versus 11th in the Championship, with Forest being on a 4-game unbeaten run, where they've won 3, drew 1, which is quite impressive, and they carry on pushing for them promotion places to try and get back in the Premier League. Cardiff have won the previous fixture 1-0 at home to a struggling Stoke. However, have failed to win an away game all season. It's for 10 games. They've not won one away. I know I said this about Millwall last weekend, but surely it can't happen twice on the bounce. And the last one an away game to San Antonio, which it's an American side, I think, which was in July in a pre-season friendly. So my final pick is going to be Forest to beat Cardiff. So the fourfold is going to be Burnley to beat Palace, Barnsley to beat Hull, Shrewsbury to beat Mansfield, and Nottingham Forest to beat Cardiff. Not sure on the odds, so you have to check them yourself. Straight on to the both teams to score. So first 3 picks are going to be Aidan's, second 3 picks are going to be mine. Aidan's first 3 are as follows. So first one, Birmingham versus Millwall. Not many notes is left for these, but Birmingham have landed both teams to score in 4 of the last 5 games, whereas Millwall have landed both teams to score also in 4 of the last 5 away games. His second pick is going to be Stoke versus Blackburn. So Blackburn have landed both teams to score in 9 of the last 11 games, which is really impressive. And Stoke have landed both teams to score in 10 of 18 league games this season. Blackburn are obviously the away side there as well. His third and final pick on the both teams to score is going to be Cheltenham versus Port Vale. Cheltenham have landed both teams to score in the last 4 home games, scoring in the last 5 homes. Port Vale have landed both teams to score in 3 of the last 5 aways, scoring in each of them. Nice start. So they're Aidan's 3 picks. My 3 picks, we're going to go over to Scotland. So it's going to be Hibernian versus Kilmarnock. So we're going over to Scotland. There's just a lack of fixtures this weekend. Obviously, because there's FA Cup on, there's hardly any League One games, and there's hardly any League Two games. So Hibs have landed both teams to score in the previous 9 games, which is really impressive. Where Kilmarnock have landed 3 in the previous 5. It's 5th versus 6th as well over in the Scottish Premiership. There's only 3 points separating the 2 sides, so I do expect some goals in that one. Scottish football is actually quite good. My granddad actually always bangs on it because he loves both teams to score slip, and he always bangs on about the Scottish football for both teams to score, and they do land quite often. My second pick is going to be Wigan versus Reading. Both sides are relatively struggling in the Championship this season, with Wigan sitting 22nd and Reading only sitting 18th, with 2 points separating the sides. Wigan have landed 4 in the previous 5 both teams to score, where Reading have only Reading have landed 3 out of 5 in the previous 5 away games. So my second pick, Wigan versus Reading. My final pick is going to be Bristol City versus Huddersfield. So Bristol City have landed 3 out of the previous 5 games, both teams to score. Huddersfield landing 4 from the previous 5. Huddersfield haven't failed to score in an away fixture this season over in the Championship, which is quite impressive. And Bristol City have only failed to score in 2 home games this season. So with them stats, then I do fancy that. So the both teams to score sixfold is going to be as follows: Birmingham versus Millwall, Stoke versus Blackburn, Cheltenham versus Port Vale, Hibs versus Kilmarnock, Wigan versus Reading, and Bristol City versus Huddersfield. Again, not sure on the odds. You're probably going to get about 25 to 1 on that. That's what we got around that last week, I think. Both teams to score. So the score and win, if you're not familiar with this bet, both teams to score have to win, and then the match result as well, which if you watched the last podcast, then I was banging on about both teams have to score. But yeah, both teams have to score in this one. So me and Aidan do a pick each, and then we have a pick that we agree on. So Aidan's pick is Burton, both teams to score, Burton to beat Oldham. Burton have landed both teams to score in 4 of the last 5 aways, and Aidan expects the League One side to be too good for Oldham. Obviously, that's an FA Cup game, League One versus League Two. Oldham went down last season, down to League Two. Burton still up there in League One. That's the only note is left on that one. My pick is going to be Forest Green versus Carlisle, with Forest Green to win. So an FA Cup tie where two League Two sides come together, second versus 21st in the league. However, Carlisle have scored in the previous 4 away games, but I just don't see them being strong enough to beat promotion pushers Forest Green, as they are second in the league. I think they're just behind Swindon. So my first pick is going to be Forest Green to beat Carlisle, with both teams to score. And the final pick, the one which me and Aidan agreed on, is Walsall versus Oxford. Both teams to score, with Oxford to win. So League One Oxford are unbeaten in 8 games and come up against League Two Walsall. Oxford are also unbeaten in 8 away games, which is a nice little stat, whilst Walsall are unbeaten in previous four games in League Two, albeit being obviously a division lower than Oxford. Odds on that, again, not too sure. We've got 2 aways in there, so it should be better than last. I think last week it was on like 34, 35 to 1. I expect at least like 50s or something like that on this week's treble. So if you're new to the channel, welcome along. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, which is down here, I think. If not, it's down there. and there's a thumbs up button down there as well, so if you can hit that as well. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I can't even speak on this podcast this week. Hit the subscribe button as well, and head over to the podcast app on your phone if you've got a spare 5 minutes. And if you could search Byrons World Podcast and give me a 5-star review if you are enjoying the podcast. But until next week, fingers crossed we'll get a win, because it is episode 15 now. Thanks for your patience, and I'm sorry about Swansea. Peace.